I am so excited for this because last week I took a screenshot of a post from Reddit where someone said they were getting paid $35,000 to set up an internal ChatGPT for a law firm. And I posted it on X and it went absolutely nuclear viral. It's currently sitting at 2.7 million impressions. And today I found the guy behind the post, the guy who's getting paid the 35K. And I'm so excited to learn more about it today and ask you all the questions that everyone's been asking and everyone wants to know. So, what's up, Thomas? Thank you for joining me today. Who are you and what do you do right now?
Well, who am I? That's such a good question. So I'm founder of an AI agency called Ecosystems. But prior to that, I've been a founder of a marketing agency for the last 10 years where we were mostly fractional CMOs, but I specialize in paid advertising, conversion rate optimization, and analytics. About 8 months ago, I made the pivot to focus more on AI. I'm still partner of the modern CMO firm. Right now, I'm mostly delivering AI solutions to mostly anyone who wants to automate their internal systems, primarily focused around like revenue driving streams like marketing. It's how I connected with that law firm you saw my post about. I was actually calling to sell them a chatbot. So I wasn't even in the space to do the internal ChatGPT thing, but they kind of sidetracked the conversation, asking if that was capable. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, right? Like, why would I not? Because it's
Yeah.
very similar how they work. It's just like the infrastructure needs to be more enterprise.
So, from like a scale of 1 to 10, with one being I don't even know what code looks like. Five being like, I'm kind of a vibe coder. I can play around with Replit and some of these tools. And 10 being like, I'm an AI engineer. Like, where do you put yourself?
As far as coding goes, I'm a WordPress guy. So I can do, I don't know, I'd say my tech skills as far as like coding would be like a 7, like it would be like a 7.5. If you sat me down with a blank text editor, it would take me longer than someone who's really good to deploy something. But if you gave me something that like has some quirks or needs to be fixed, I can go into like a project and identify problems and fix them. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair. Okay, so if someone watches to the end of our conversation today, what can they expect to learn? What are we going to cover?
Well, one, we're going to cover the tweet. Two, I think you'll be able to learn how to acquire customers for your AI agency or how to take your idea and connect it to people who might be interested.
And I'm excited to ask you all the questions that everyone has about what you do and this project that you set up because a lot of people had a lot to say. And I think that's why this went viral because everyone had an opinion about it. So,
Yes, that was.
first off, let's start out. You touched on it a little bit there, but how did you come across this project? Because this isn't like something that you were advertising as, hey, I go into law offices or businesses to set up local LLMs, right? How did you come across this?
So with my marketing clients, about 8 months ago, we started setting up chatbots, and we'd be running traffic to their websites, and then we'd have AI agents that would respond via web chat. And that was cool. It was booking jobs because we'd have online bookings, so we could just run ads all night long. We didn't have to have people around, and the online tool or the web chat would book like jobs for plumbers, carpet cleaners, a lot of home service guys. I do work with like private equity companies that buy like a bunch of home service companies, so I help them work out their marketing. And I noticed people were really engaged in this and the conversations were going really well. And then there's a tool called 11 Labs I stumbled upon. And that is like a real-time voice, like speech wrapper. So I started wrapping the agent voice and connecting it through Twilio along with like an SMS. So now you have an agent, they could call, they could text, they could speak on a web chat, they could email, and the agent would book jobs and interact with their CRM. And then they would just wake up with a brief of the call and they'd send out confirmation emails and send out texts and just, collect their checks. And all of a sudden I'm building these things out and I'm just like, man, this is the move, right? Chatbots, ones you can talk to, all that stuff. So I've started like phasing out more of my marketing work and phasing into the AI work. And that was more around the new year. And I connected with the law firm because I've done personal injury attorney PPC and it's like really expensive. They spend a lot of money on like after hours phone services, people to book the jobs, do the intakes. So I was trying to sell them a chatbot and then they start talking about, hey, could you do this? Because everyone everywhere they're just into AI. They don't even know what they want. We need the AI, right? Whatever that is. I like outside of ChatGPT. And the system itself is very similar. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we could absolutely do that. But the problem becomes like the data privacy. And that's how the price of this goes so high. It's because you have to develop like a secure infrastructure and make sure it's not hallucinating. Because when we're doing something and it's, oh yeah, we have an air duct cleaning special and it's whatever, 10 vents for $89. That's not crazy for the chatbot to say. But when you're connecting to like nuance of like law, it becomes one, like way more serious. And two, these LLMs will hallucinate because sometimes they'll give a wrong price. And then we just go in and we correct it and try and give it a guardrail. So with the law, there's just like way more to figure out. And we just started talking about that. And I tell everyone when I'm talking about B2B sales, anyone who's pitching you should be competent in anything they do. It comes down to likability. So when people are like, how do you lock this in? It's, well, the guys just liked me, right? They just liked talking to me. They believed in our capabilities. I have an engineer I work with who is, a big tech guy that like got laid off. So he's highly skilled, lives in Peru now. And we got like a scalable team of techs down there. So yeah, I just said yes to the job, closed the deal, got a contract signed and collected a check. I don't know. There's not much to it. But
That's what business is, right?
yeah, it's just that. But I was calling to sell a chatbot. They sidetracked, asking if we could do that. And to be honest, I really underbid on the project. Like it should have been more, but it was a fair deal. Once we have this one done, I mean, even from that tweet, I have a bunch of other like projects that I'm scoping out and pitching, but none have yet closed. Though it's only been like a week.
That was awesome. I think we should stick on this of the business development part of it because AI automation agencies or just building AI stuff right now is really hot. And at least in the world that I live in, and probably the one you do as well, there's a lot of people talking about doing AI automations or building small AI tools for like local businesses or small businesses. But getting in front of these people or selling to these people is kind of different than like selling to a software company where it's, oh, I go find the person on LinkedIn. Maybe I can scrape the entire company's emails. I can target them through targeted LinkedIn ads. How are you thinking about finding these projects? I think you mentioned you're doing cold calling. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm like a trained phone warrior, right? Like back in my old life, I used to sell like rare coins to high net worth individuals. So, and these were folks that bought like a quarter one time, and like everyone from that to people who are buying like tens of $1,000 gold pieces. So I just sat around making hundreds of dials all day long, just pulling money out of people. So I'm cool to sit on the phone all day and let everyone just beat me to piss and, just stick through that until you get to a yes. And then you turn that into B2B sales, and it's just a little different. People are more courteous, so it's not as crazy. But a lot of it's just like the money's in the follow-up. So yeah, I build a list. Usually on like Apollo, I have switched it over to Lead 411. They have a better unlimited plan. And then I'll just build a list of companies that do over 10 million in revenue. And then I just start hitting that list. And I'll look them up and see like maybe who I'd want to talk to. A lot of times you're hitting a gatekeeper. And then it's mostly just data harvesting from people. And, I always have an angle when I'm calling like a receptionist. I say, hey, you could probably help me, right? I'm not just trying to sell. I try to make them be useful. It's who would be the best person to speak to about, what you guys are doing over there for AI, if you're even doing anything. And they'll usually be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. Maybe Bill and, the manager. And I'm like, could I like connect to Bill, or does he have an email? And they're always like, oh, yeah, I'll email him at this. Or they'll be like, I can send you to his voicemail. And then I know I got Bill, and then I'll leave him a message or I'll send him an email. And then I Google Bill and I try to find who Bill is. And then I'll put him in my CRM and I keep following up for Bill. And eventually you get him on the line and he'll either tell you to piss off, or usually when I'm talking about AI now. So when I would call and sell like marketing, like their cousin does it, or, they got a guy or they got an agency. The AI stuff, they're all like, well, what do you do? Or, it's like everyone's interested. So it's pretty easy to get in the door once you get past the gatekeeper. But yeah, so I build a list. I just sit around and hit it. And I have a little executive clock. So, they always used to say when we'd sell like to executives, like the first 20 minutes of your day is a good time to hit them. So maybe like around 8 a.m. And then like 15 minutes before lunch, 20 minutes after lunch, 20 minutes before the wind down of the day, 20 minutes after the day ends. Because that's usually when an executive would be like sitting at their office, kind of just like doing whatever, because they're usually busy. So you can get them on their downtime. So I try to call like when the day starts, when lunch starts, when lunch ends, when the day ends, and the day end like continues.
That's a great tip for actually connecting with them. What are you pitching them? Because on your point, and I've had people reach out to me being like, "Hey, like I can help you set up automations." Okay, well, what exactly you do? And they said, "Well, what are all like what I need to like, follow all the stuff in your business so that I can see like what can be automated." Like how are you starting that conversation, pitching like what you can do?
So I usually lead with this chatbot, right? Because I come from the marketing angle, and usually I generalize it. And when I'll be like, "Hey, are you guys doing anything with AI right now?" And a lot of times they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we use ChatGPT, blah blah blah. We upload it." And I say, "Well, have you ever tapped into the API or anything like that?" And actually activated it over any of your areas, so you don't actually have to do the thing. You don't have to upload the thing. And they're like, "No, like how would that even work?" Or you will call some people and they're like, "Yeah, we have all these processes that we would love to like automate because we're doing them manually with ChatGPT right now. Is there a way we could do this?" Because they all have these ideas. And I kind of lead them, and I have a call like you can listen to on my YouTube page where I usually lead them and say, "Well, I usually will start people with a chat bot to do some intake and customer service. And I'll let them listen to the video, chat with a web agent and stuff like that. And I usually lead them there because a lot of people I call by default are usually running ads, right? A lot of people I'll generally call like home service people, PI attorneys, because they're usually trying to generate leads. And one of the big things they always worry about is having high quality like phone reps to take those calls. Because a missed call, like for a personal injury attorney, they're paying hundreds of dollars like for a click in Google Ads, right? So like to have 10 clicks, it can be up to $2,000. So you need someone sharp on that phone all the time. Like they can't be on a cigarette break. They can't be like sick at work. So I can have a web, text, email, phone agent that sounds clear, enthusiastic, ready to take that call and book it like right away. So that's kind of like the angle I try to lead in, but I kind of just take a general sense when I'm approaching it just to open a conversation. I'd never try to sell like right off the jump. I try to just get people to talk to me and just generalize it, and then I direct them. Because sometimes they like to talk about like their idea they have. Like if they're familiar at all, they're usually using something and they don't even know what they don't know yet because it's still so new. So they always are like, "Oh, can you do this?" And it's like, "Yeah, we could do that." Because it's usually, I just need someone to like take this data out of my email and send it to this person and then, upload it. And as long as you have access to an API, we can do all that.
Yeah. I really like the idea of having something for them to look at, kind of like a wow moment, because we live in the world of Twitter where we see VO3 come out and we see all these crazy things happening every day. But like you can still have that same effect on people that aren't living on Twitter every day, right? If you show someone off the street like VO3, like they haven't seen that, like, wait, that's AI. Like you can give them that wow moment and leading with, "Hey, we can do this." And they're like, "Well, okay, if they can do this, they can probably do all this other stuff that I need help with as well," is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, so they're not sophisticated on the AI usually. Like I'll talk to some business owners that they don't even, if you're not on Twitter or Reddit or on a coastal city or in a primary city, like you'll talk to guys that are doing 25 million in revenue and they're like, I don't even know what AI does.
Yeah.
I don't even know what AI does. They're just like, that's that robot thing, right? And you're just like, "Yeah, man." But when you start, like, they don't care about the AI. They care about booking more jobs, like reducing overhead and stuff like that. It's so like when we start talking about it, it's more focused on, I can make sure all your calls are answered. Because even like their overflow calls, like some dudes will do direct mail drops, right? And during those days, you'll be overflowing with calls. So now it'll generally go to our chat agent when before it would be like, "Please leave a message." Like this is the new voicemail. So, I usually sell those for $5,000. So, and then it's like an ongoing service. But if you saw another Reddit post I had posted, I've been selling like automation as a service where for 2,500 a month, we kind of just like stay on your team and map out things you can automate and like just kind of like work on your behalf and stuff like that. That's been the move now. But these past few months, I've just been, calling to just open a conversation about their business, what they're doing with AI. I try to lead them to, answering more calls. I usually try to start it with, let's like implement this as like a web chat so people can talk, and then we'll run the voice after hours and on the weekends because I don't really want their receptionist that help me out to be like, "This dude's trying to like get me fired." And then
Yeah.
they'll eventually usually phase it in, and they're like during their work day when tons of calls are coming in. I don't know. It's just so random. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, this is great. Let's talk about the local LLM a little bit because that's what everyone's getting fired up about. Basically, how I see this is businesses are going to need to do this, right? Because if you're a law firm or like a medical office, you can't be sending your patient's data through these LLMs to be hosted in the cloud or like on ChatGPT servers, right? That needs to be housed internally. Is that the reason why everyone's doing this?
So the private LLM, there are certain industries like finance, medical, legal, where they cannot let their data touch like third-party APIs. Some people just don't want the training to go back to the LLM APIs and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be on premise necessarily, but it has to be like for legal, it has to be like SOC 2, right? So there needs to be like security infrastructure in place to make sure it's like private data. And there are services for lawyers specifically like Harvey AI that do very similar things, but the pricing can get to be like $1,500 per like seat per attorney. So guys will be, or firms will be spending like hundreds of thousands, some even into the millions for seats on some of these like enterprise solutions. So even when you're doing that, it's still a black box solution that you can't like tune and train to like the way you want. So the pitch on the whole like internal thing is they want to own it. They want to be able to train it their own way and reduce the cost of doing so. So when you're doing that, like that's the like incentive for them. There is solutions out there that solve these problems. They're just like crazy expensive right now. So when you're talking about being half, that's still good money to our firm, right? 35 grand, even you'll see people that are like, this is 100 grand too little. Or people will be like, that's way too much. And it's, well, we felt like it was a fair deal. I would like to see that like maybe doubled next time because what you start learning is a lot of it goes into the prompt engineering, making sure the nuances of law, like finance is easier to build for because the data is pretty static, right? These are numbers that we got to crunch. Where law brings in nuance and like different perspectives, different interpretations, updates in laws, stuff like that. So what this really turns into, where everyone starts bringing up good points, is making it work long term and keeping it updated. Because if a law were to be updated next year and we don't put that case law in the LLM for it to train on, it could give like false data. So we're like everyone in those tweets is like, well, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. These law firms don't think this is like magic and going to work right away. They have people on staff ready to like work with it. And you'll talk to them and they all know if you don't adopt this, like you're done because the next guy is. And eventually rates will start going down. And whoever like gets to this first, especially in things like personal injury, because a lot of it's just like processing data, crafting like your position and then submitting it. So a lot of it can be automated and then you just follow up like with your clients. So that seems to be the case with all of them. I didn't seek out attorneys, so I'm like new to that space. And like your tweet kind of put me like in it even more because I just have a
Now
line.
you're the expert.
Yeah, right. Like they talk to me like the expert, and I always tell them like I'm like not the expert, but like I can apply the AI knowledge and like the marketing knowledge and the automation knowledge to your domain knowledge. But you'll find that none of them expect it to be like their like 100% flawless tool, and they're all really amped to get going with it. And the biggest thing for them is they can't really use ChatGPT. So it's like, where do they go? They either spend this like crazy amount of money for an enterprise solution that they don't own. But if you can bring it to them in-house or like even like on a CoreWeave server or something like that, they're happy to talk. The hardest thing to do with a law firm is just get them on the phone. That's the hardest thing.
That's what I was gonna say. It's easy to talk about, oh, you should have asked for way more, you should have done this, you should have done that. But it's like, yeah, most people can't even get a conversation with a law firm, right? Or like the person that's in charge of making that decision.
Right. So that's usually what the biggest problem is. But that deal took me 5 weeks. I followed up multiple times, multiple stakeholders in the deal. I mean, I think I called them maybe a total of like 8, 9 times before I got like everyone together. So it was a lot of moving pieces, a lot of emailing back and forth, a lot of talking about their like internal tools that we need to work with. And then I like scoped out the project and we got to commit.
And the number one question or I guess critique in the tweet was all about the pricing, right? Some people are like, this is way too expensive. You don't know what you're doing. The other people are like, this is like way too cheap. This should be like $300,000, not 35K. I think you said you double it. What do you think the actual price should be for a solution like this?
It really depends on firm size and the type of law they do. And like, there's all these variables that you start learning the more you talk to everybody. Because I'll talk to some folks or some firms that when they start explaining what needs to be done, I'm like, whoa, this is so much more. Like personal injury type stuff, it's pretty standardized. But if you're doing like murder cases, for example, like that's going to be so much different than just like collecting the evidence from a car accident and insurance, you know? So something like that will definitely affect it. And part two is how many people are going to be using it, right? So if I can reduce the workflow of 25 lawyers who are billing 500 an hour on average or something like that, like how do you quantify that, right? If I can reduce your workflow like 30% in 8 months or something, like over 2 years, I just saved you millions of dollars. I could charge $2 million and it's still going to be worth it if you write those numbers down. It's all the value proposition in what, like how they envision it too. Like I was talking to one guy, if we can pull off like some of these automations, because not only that, you lock in one of these, they all have 10 other things they want to do too, right? Like they see where the automation fits into all their workflows, and they can't really take advantage of the workflows yet because they can't use the AI. And it could be everything from just parsing emails and getting it into their secured like CRM that they use, and then shooting it out to the lawyers that need to brief it and like the junior analysts or whatever. So I don't know. I think you could easily justify 100 G's on that thing. For the right firm. I was a co-counsel from Thomson Reuters. I think there's people spending like 3 to 5 mil for some of these large firms on there. So it all depends. Like a one-man shop, yeah, he's not going to spend 35 G's. I had one guy call me. He's a single guy. I've been doing law for 25 years. I saw your thing, blah, 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 blah. What would it be? I was like, man, we're like, you know, I don't know if I forget what it is, but like today's price is not yesterday's price, right? That is no longer the thing because the demand's there. So like you can maybe go find it for 35 grand now, but I got people knocking on the door. So now it's 70 and they still feel it's valuable. Like it's
He's like, where do I send a check?
Yeah. Almost that easy, but not that easy, right? Like it's
totally.
trust building. You got to like, they interview the engineers. Like they got to make sure everyone's legitimate and that type of stuff. But this stuff's so new too, so there's no standardized pricing. You know, I think in B2B sales and this type of stuff, a lot of it just comes down to being likable and flexible to work with and competence.
And sort of understanding the value it brings to them, right? If this brings $100,000 worth of value, like asking for 40, 50, 60K is like not a big deal. Even if to you it feels like a little crazy to say it out loud, it's like, yeah, but like this brings them so much value, it's worth it. And they're still saving money by doing something like this.
Yeah, like they'll pay, like that 35K will be repaid within 3 months, if not sooner, right? Like these guys, they make so much money, some of them. Yeah. Their rates are high. I don't even know how to describe it. It's shocking to me, the response the internet made. I'm kind of glad because it helped me gather a better perspective of what I should be pricing. But I don't know. It felt right. We felt like that was a fair rate for what it was going to take. And the other thing is like ongoing maintenance, right? So like we pitched like an initial ongoing maintenance fee of $2,000, which was initially like not taken advantage of. We're still in contact with them and we're negotiating what that could look like. This tweet has moved the momentum in our favor. But it's still not locked in. But you could probably even get like $3,000-$4,000 to manage that. Because if you can offload 10 people's work, that would do like a bunch of like paper pushing for $4,000. I mean, I think you're paying in our city $15 an hour. What is that? Like almost $3,000 a month for like the worst employee you can find.
I don't think anybody should be afraid of underpricing their first project when they're offering something new. It's that one gets your foot in the door, it proves your value. And so what if they got way more value out of it? Like they took a risk on you. Totally. And it just so happens that you figured out this now works and you could double your prices on the next one. Like you should probably underprice every time you do a first project or offer something.
Yeah, especially in a space like this too, because you know the use case to show the next person it makes your deal so much easier. So yeah, I mean, realistically, if I'd have known, like this wasn't even in my roadmap of things to offer, right? This wasn't on top of mind. When we started talking about it, I was like, yeah, this is totally doable. like I have my engineer guy who's more of like the hardware guy who can help map out the specs of the hardware that's needed. Because one of the biggest costs they incur is like running the GPUs. The other thing that people seem to argue with was like the Llama 3 model. There's a Llama 4 model, which we are trying to bump new people to, but it's going to cost them like $5,000 a month to run it like business hours. So the way you start like running those numbers for people is, well, okay, maybe you only have your team running it part-time, like noon to 4 is when you can use it. And then we could still reduce the hosting costs to around $2,000 a month while you're taking advantage of the newer, more powerful LLMs on the same resources that are needed for that. So
You say the cost to actually run that. You mean electricity? Just to run this?
yeah, it's like that one you posted about is running on, I think it's like A100 GPUs, like NVIDIA chips or whatever. Like there's 8 in a full node. This isn't my specialty, so some of this might be, like fact check me.
It's already over my head.
So. Yeah, so in order to run this, right, like you can't run that LLM on your laptop, right? It would take too much power. It wouldn't do any output. You need to run it on, you're pretty much running almost supercomputers. But you need to load it onto like the server stack, right? So that one's running on 2 A100s. And I think that's running at 18 or 20 bucks an hour. So you're paying like 20 bucks an hour to run that thing. So that is going to, if you ran it 24/7, it's going to cost you like tens of thousands of dollars. Like ChatGPT is running on all these like NVIDIA chips, and they're probably losing money, even all the money they make. But that is like one of the biggest costs is like hosting this tool and running it. Even when you're like training it, you're paying 20 bucks an hour just to run prompt engineering on the thing, which means like you're asking a question, seeing the output. Like that's costing us 20 bucks an hour just to test it.
Yeah. It's like mining Bitcoin or whatnot, right? When you run these servers, right?
Yeah, and you're renting it. So we're like RunPod is another one. RunPod and CoreWeave are the two that I've been using. And then, there's people that start talking about buying your own like nodes and doing it, but I have no interest in that. Yeah, so that's not my specialty. That's where I have the engineer guy that helps me big time because he's a super hardware guy. But yeah, to run, what would it be? Llama 4, 24 hours a day, I think you'd be over like $50,000 a month, maybe something like that. It's crazy. But like to do that, the value's there because these guys will be printing, $20 million a year in sales.
One of the other big questions was, well, what happens when something inevitably goes wrong? Are you staying on their team, or is there like a retainer that's ongoing? How does that work?
So a couple of the new contracts we've got, it is ongoing retainer. The tweet specific post is not retained. We have our workflow with our initial support. I will keep hitting for an upsell on that, right? And it will probably be taken because there's just things you just have to keep doing. But yeah, the goal is to get a retainer. And I've been pitching it at $2,000 a month, but we'll see how that goes. And like that maintenance work is kind of offset for me with the developer. So I don't really see any of that money. I just mostly manage the relationship. Because again, like this is new to me too. I'm still fleshing this out.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm charging too little. Maybe I'm charging too much. Who really knows? Everyone finds the value there. We agree on the price. It seems that. And then people will always talk to me about like scope creep. Well, what if they start asking for too much? And it's like, well, then I start asking them for more money starting next month, right? I will eat the loss in the front end because I underbid. Cool. But now I know, and then you just raise the price. If they don't want it and we don't want the work, they can go hire someone else. So, and nothing we do is proprietary, right? Everything we set up, we make sure they own it so someone else can come in and pick up where we left off. We might have a different like logic of putting it together, but anyone competent should be able to come to what we build and continue building it. That's like a way I try and sell it too, where a lot of people try to like guard this stuff so they can lock you into some golden handcuffs. I have no interest in that way of business. I don't want to manage like the credit card fees. I don't want to be billed from the GPUs and then bill them and stuff like that. So there's all these moving pieces that are, because they're paying a lot of consumption fees. Like even if we're talking about hooking like a voice agent up to the LLM so they can do mock trial like arguments with the cases, like that alone is going to be like, they'll cost them, I don't know, like 17 cents a minute or something to talk to. It's wild how this all starts breaking down.
It is. Do you think anybody could do this, or do you think it takes a specific baseline of technical knowledge?
Definitely a baseline of technical knowledge, but if you're like a 3 out of 10 in technical knowledge, you could eat the glass and get through it. Because it's not like we're doing like LLM engineering. I'm not like developing the LLM. One of the biggest things is understanding how all the pieces work together and putting them together to make it work. So anyone with a step-by-step instruction could do everything, no problem. But knowing like what to do is the problem. It's like specialty knowledge in some sense, but it's not like hard.
And if someone wanted to do this, what do you think would be the best way to get started? Should they learn a baseline as much as they can and then partner with someone technical, sort of like you're doing? Or do you think that they could just, hey, let's just speed run this and try to learn this as much as we can and try to start offering this as a service?
I would take a look at myself and I would see where my strong suit is. If I had zero technical ability, but I was good at sales, I would just find someone who's smarter than me to do all the technical work. And I would just do a 30-70 split on the deals and just start hitting the phone and just selling it all day. I take more of the split because I do a lot of the automation stuff, right? So I'm working with my guys. We deploy faster with 2 people, but like I'm starting to get like a flow of work where I'm going to start adding more team members. And it's getting to a point where I'm like, I should just be shaking hands and kissing babies at this point, just collecting checks, knocking down doors, getting money in this thing because now it's real. It's beyond real. Like you validated me to the public. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest questions that I've been getting was on the thread a lot, and it sounds like you're getting as well, is are you going to be white labeling this so other people can sell it for you?
Probably not necessarily white labeling it because one, I can't have people out there just like closing deals without me knowing what they say, right? I would maybe be open to people like getting me a hot lead and giving them a fat kickback, right? Like you got someone interested, give them to me. And if I close it, I'll pay you for the lead. I'm a paid ads guy. So customer acquisition is like everything I understand. And it costs money to acquire a customer. And these are like high value customers. So I can't just have a 23-year-old out there just like making pitches without standardized verbiage coming from our brand. So no white label, but maybe some sort of lead gen program or something like that I'd be open to. Just because another thing about this space is everything moves so fast, like how long is the opportunity going to be viable, right? So like I'm open to just going guns blazing right now. Who
Might
knows?
as well.
In 24 months, this could be like $99 a month from some SaaS company or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Probably
No,
not.
totally could be.
The security and the compute usage, like the compute alone costs a ton of money. So we'll see how that rolls out, but it's interesting. It is the next frontier in the AI space is private LLMs that you can control and kind of like just activate in your own business. Because we can also build functions off that. Like the agents people are building with N8N, like they can power that on their own with this LLM. And there's also some LLMs coming out. They've been out for a few years that are specifically trained on like legal case law. They aren't as good as Llama, but they're like trying to catch up. So like legal is a space that is going to be probably one of the most impacted by AI. So there's going to be a ton of money being made while you gut that industry. So it's definitely one to be in. The hardest thing is like getting people to trust you.
Do you think lawyers are a little bit scared of AI, although they're paying this?
No, yeah. Like I ask each one, I'm like, are you guys nervous about this? And they're like, kinda, like they aren't, but the guy that just started law school for 200 grand, that guy should be, because what we're building will take his job. So like when they had 15 of them, next year they'll have 8, and then they'll have 3. But the guys who are cutting these checks, no, they got all the money. They're experts. They're old. They're rich. Not rich, but you know what I mean. Like they're just in it. They're not going anywhere.
Semi-rich.
Right? But they're on the down slope of the hill. So they just want their life to be easier and automated. Where the new guys or the new people, they'll have a whole different type of battle to go in. Because even customer service, because that's what I've mainly been hitting. And I know for a fact I've replaced a handful of receptionists. Like I can know that.
Crazy.
Like it's crazy. Well, it's like online booking and the AI agent, like it books all the calls. And then the receptionist for a month and a half was just like reading books all day. And they were like, all right, we got to let this go. But it saves them like, $62,000 a year plus benefits.
And look, someone's going to have to run all these LLMs, right? We're opening up new jobs as well.
Yeah, there will be new industries. Things will change. I can't really feel bad about it. It's just the coming of the new world. Just It is.
Yeah, the internet did the same exact thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it displaced a lot of people, but it also created Amazon employs like 1 million people, and Amazon wouldn't be a company if the internet wasn't existent. So I think it'll bring a ton of new jobs as well. One thing we were talking about a little bit before is the Reddit post as well as the Twitter post seems to be bringing you a lot of leads. I want to talk about that briefly because I want to encourage people to share what they're doing because of what it can do for business right now. Can you talk about that a second?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, Reddit alone, if I remember correct, the number, it was like 228, 229 DMs that I got from that. It was like 38 web submissions on my website. Then I think I don't know, I got 300 followers on Twitter from that. Just like where I was like not even active at all. Now I'm trying to like be more engaged. And then I think it was like 15 or 16 DMs on Twitter. But they weren't all leads. They like some people wanted jobs, some people wanted to sell it. As far as like core leads that were like solid leads, it was over 50. I got over 50 real leads that I've been like following up. Out of those 50 leads so far, I've had 12 Zoom calls and I've sent out 5 scoped bids with the highest bid being $240,000. So that was my highest bid so far. I sent that out this morning, but that wasn't one of these. That was one of these and 14 other things they want done, right? That's what this leads into is they have all these other little functions they see capable to power with AI. And this just started the conversation. Actually, the $240,000 project, this is on like the bottom, like the AI stack, like LLM in-house thing is on the bottom of their list. So they like that, but there's processes that they see that they can eliminate because eliminating someone, if you can take a lawyer that's doing 15 hours of busy work at a billable rate of just say $400 an hour, that's, what is that, like $4,000 or something? And that's, if you're doing 10 hours of that a week, that's, what is that, $16,000 a month? Like, so they want to automate all this like data processing, like extracting the information from this, getting it into their like CRM, getting it out to the other people who need to evaluate it. So it's an exciting world and I'm learning a lot. And it's all thanks to you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I think like the resolution we could come there is that if we just take a conservative base of 100K project per lead times 50, that's 5 million in pipeline for one tweet.
Yeah. Realist. I told my neighbor that. My neighbor is like a finance bro and we're like good buds. And we have dogs, and I saw him out front, and he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Well, you're looking at the newest AI thought leader," and he's really, I was like, "Yeah, man, I made this Reddit post, and this dude tweeted it about like a $35,000 legal analyst." And he goes, "Dude, I saw that tweet."
No way.
Yeah, it like went everywhere, man. It's crazy.
That's
And
awesome.
I was like, I think I got as far as like lead value based on the 35K, it was like 1.4 mil in like lead value that came through. Obviously, I'm not bidding that, but it's like, when I look at those numbers, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to call that Nick dude and buy him dinner.
Well, this is enough. I appreciate you coming on here. This is really interesting to learn all this. It's just moving so fast. So it's, if we talk in another 2 months, I'm sure that you'll have a million other things to say. Well, actually, I discovered this, and this is what more people are asking. And there's probably going to be a new model even in 2 months that everyone's talking about. So,
Well, the thing about the models, though, is you can switch those out quick as long as you have the resources. So updating a model isn't crazy, right? One of the most expensive things is like just getting all the data in and like paying for those tokens on the API. Because even you can spend a ton of money just like training the thing. That's where this becomes cost intensive and sometimes counterproductive for some of them. I was gonna say it is quick, but like it's quick in our world. It's not quick when you go into Walmart right now and you ask people like, do you know what DeepSeek is? They'll be like, I have no idea what
DeepSeek.
or like Claude, or do you know what an LLM is? They'll be like, no, I have no idea.
Yeah. You know what VO3 is? They're like, no, is that like a drink?
Even if you say OpenAI, they won't know that because they know ChatGPT. And you can feel that it's moving faster than it is when you're embedded in it on like Reddit and Twitter, because you're constantly being bombarded with it. I'll even be on it, I'm like, man, how can I even keep up with all this stuff? And then I get offline and I talk to real humans and I'm like, oh, no one knows. It's like us, like 8,000 people in an echo chamber. Outside that, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. It's like I have a tweet today that was like, and it's actually going pretty well, but it's basically, hey, look, everyone wants to talk about AI agents and replacing everything that an employee does, but really most people just want like a Zapier integration that like they don't even know that they can like zap an email into their CRM. That's where a lot of businesses are right now. Yes, you have the advanced SaaS companies, but like your normal or average everyday SMB, like they still want a chatbot on their website. That's as advanced as they'll even go.
Totally. And I mean, anyone who's trying to start an agency or anything like that, there's like really never been a better time because all these big tech layoffs have all these high quality engineers that are looking for work. So you can go and just post about some work you have. And I posted, so Team Blind, blind.com. It's like a big tech social media company. I don't know if you know what that is. I posted, I had some like AI projects on there, and I have like ex Google engineers that are like, I'll work for $90 an hour all day long, just sitting in the Bay Area. So you can get high quality tech talent ready to work because they got San Francisco rent to pay. And so as long as you're someone that's like ambitious with an idea, there's talent out there. So you can like vibe code an MVP, go find some high quality talent, throw together a pitch deck and raise 500 G's in a month to start working. It's crazy. So
That's a great tip. I've never even thought about that. Going on blinds and recruiting from there. That's a you could really just
tech
go
talent in the country, man.
yeah. You could go find these projects and just outsource it to some of the best engineers in the country that like clearly have already worked at big tech and now they're laid off or looking for extra work. That is, you could build an entire agency just like that.
That is, I don't want to say my move, but that is the move.
Just gave away your alpha, man.
It's not the alpha, man. There's not enough work for me to do on my own. So just like people, they were like, why would you even say what you did here? I'm like, this isn't like, I'm not a genius, man. You share the knowledge, right? Giving it away actually gives me a lot more opportunity.
100%. That and 0.001% of people that saw that are going to go try to recreate it, right? Like,
Oh
that,
yeah.
it
And
just
like,
doesn't happen.
and even like people that DM me, like, how do you get these clients? I'm like, oh, cold call. They'll DM me back. They'll be like, yo, I called 20 businesses last night and no one wanted to talk. I'm like, throw 2 zeros on that and call me back. Like,
It's exactly how it goes.
We as a contact sport, and the money's in the follow up, man. You gotta just, I don't know. And it's all theater, right? You got to be able to build momentum and enthusiasm and trust. And when I used to sell rare coins, we all had to have a sign in our sales desk that said it's showtime, right? Because every time you pick up the phone, it's like you're entering a new environment of theater, and your presentation needs to be on point, and your commission is your reward for your performance. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, sweet. Let's end on that. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever at Ecosystems. That's EEKO underscore SYSTEMS.
Perfect.
So that would be the best place to reach me.
Thanks, Thomas. I'll leave that in the description as well. And let's wrap it there.